I'm very excited to share this with you. So today I want to grant you a sneak peek into a session where you will see an entrepreneur who goes from having emotions of anger and frustration to it melting away within minutes. So the pursuit of perfectionism can surface emotions that can be draining, right? So this man, a successful entrepreneur with a young family, has to be on top of his game in business and in life. So when we're angry, we're not able to think straight. We don't have access to our intelligence. We're unable to see clearly, and our options in those moments seem very limited and skewed. Moreover, we're unable to perform at our potential. So if I ever need someone in the home automation space, I would engage him knowing the standards of his integrity and heart are very, very high, right? So entrepreneurs and humans like this are not easy to find. So this was a very deep and profound session. It's 100% real, it's raw, and it's deeply touching. Please watch it till the end of the session where we discuss a powerful frame that he now uses with his daughter that's bound to touch your heart and shift your perspective. So the lesson gained from this session is one that I wish everyone sees and hears and feels in their own lives. Ready to see it? So when you think of perfectionism, right, what is the difference in your mind between perfectionism and excellence?
Okay, so I think you don't need to be perfect to be excellent because, if I take my business, for example, for me, perfectionism would be that the quotation or a proposal that goes out to the client has to be perfect. So when a client sees it, so whether it's a total project value, it's the serial numbers, it's a description, it's the comma, if it's the comma after in the numbers and the dot 00, and all that, the alignment, all that is perfection. Yes, it has to be. So the client or your what do you call your presentation to the client, that has to be perfect. But if that's not perfect, doesn't mean you're not excellent in what you do. So you could be excellent or even higher than excellent in your integration works or in getting the job done. So that's something I always am struggling between, because I feel no, the proposal will not go out till these things haven't been met, and sometimes that leads to over excessive time being spent on something. And if that's the case, then if one person can shell out 6 proposals a day, it goes down to 4 proposals or 3 proposals, and then the clients are like, but what's taking so long? Mm-hmm. So that's a battle I keep fighting almost on a daily basis.
Okay. So when you're trying to be perfect, when you're seeking perfection, right? What happens? What comes up for you?
I think it's frustration. I think it's frustration because why can't this? It's so simple. Why can't this be done? And again, it's probably because I'm not doing it, and someone else is doing it. So in my mind, I feel no. If I'm doing this, I could do it faster and better. And then I end up doing it, and then I realize, okay, so probably it took me half an hour, 40 minutes less than the other person was doing it. But in hindsight, I've saved half an hour, 40 minutes, but how much of my time have I actually lost doing it? And in that time, I could have been doing so much more.
So what is the value of your time relative to?
Exactly. So I guess so that's one major thing which I'm trying to let go of.
Yeah. What's the emotion that comes up?
I think it's
trying to be perfect. I mean, like, walk me through, like, put your finger on the emotion. Like, what does your body feel in that moment?
So I feel very uneasy. I feel so it's not angry. So I think it's a mix between anger and disappointment. I think it's anger because it's like, why can't this be done? And disappointment, it's like, am I hiring the right staff? Or I think I'm disappointed with myself that I'm not able to give them the. I think it's disappointment because, it's just disappointment because it's not. I'm disappointed with them, with my staff. So I think it's a mix of anger and disappointment, which again, its bottom line is frustration. And then I just say, what, once it's done, I'll say, okay, and they'll come to me, or I know it's gone, and I'll be like, okay, then I'll shut the door, and I'll be like, I'll shut my cabin door, and maybe for 10 minutes just close my eyes and try to, just refocus and say, okay, it's done. Now let's move on to the next thing. But I have to do that, because if I don't do that, then I'm just carrying that anger or that disappointment into the next thing I'm going to do, and then I don't want to repeat it. So then I'll go to them and say, I hope it's not going to take as much as time as it took the previous one. And then they just look at me, and then I feel they're looking at me like, oh, it's such a why is he being thankless? So I think I try not to give them that, because again, they're doing their job. They're working in day out like all of us. So I feel if I'm going to be that way, it's probably just going to get their morale down, which is what I don't want to do in this, which is what, as a boss or as a leader, you don't want to do that. You want to always push them to get to be there, to be as excellent as they can.
So what I hear you say is there's a sense of feeling, you said frustrated, you said angry, then, they feel it's thankless. I feel like, if I can translate it, I feel like there's a sense of feeling trapped. Like,
Yes.
it's almost like you feel caged.
Yes.
Yeah. And what about excellence? When you're striving for excellence, how does that feel?
It feels good, because so striving for excellence is, again, it has its ups and downs. There are your days where you're going to be frustrated. There are days you're angry. But I think that comes to anything, that if you're trying to excel or in a positive direction. So, but I think when as a team we strive for excellence, it's more easier, because we know, okay, we know that it's the job's in hand. Now it's about making sure how can we start the job and excel at every point, whether it's drawings, into the whole process of what we do. So I think, so there are days where I won't be so angry is a strong word, but I'd be upset probably with my engineer who's not given the brief correct to the guys in the office, or the material that's needed, or and it's out of sheer laziness, probably because they worked in the heat, and at 6 o'clock when they're home, they're getting back home, and they're not like thinking straight. So so that's when I try to be more a friend and less a leader or a boss to them.
Yeah. It's okay to be angry, by the way, because if you think of anger, right? If you look at that emotion on a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So on one end of the spectrum of that emotion is rage, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other is annoyance. And so angry is somewhere in between the two. So it's okay. It's basically you're moving within the spectrum, as long as you're not in one end of the spectrum in terms of the extreme, because then obviously that creates a lot of dysregulation.
So no, I don't think rage. So then I think I would be between annoyance and angry, in between, like from 0 to 5, I would be somewhere there. But I try to keep it as less as possible. Again, one of my issues as my nature is, again, probably I think that's a Leo trait. It's like I'm a soda bottle. So when I'm angry, so I'll just like you shake a soda bottle and open it, and all the fizz comes out. So I'm like that, and then a few minutes later, I'm like, okay, what happened? Why did I react like this? So I've tried, like the last 1 year, 2020 onwards, I've tried to not be that person. And if it does happen, then I try to sit down and think, what triggered such an emotion?
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
And there are times I do that in the office. So just before I know that, okay, I'm going to flare up, I'll just, guys, I literally tell my staff, I'll say, listen, give me 10 minutes. I'll just shut the door and I'll be like, you know what?
Brilliant. Yeah. That awareness is key.
Yeah.
Because you feel it. You're feeling your body at that moment, right?
Yeah, and you just feel really
step back and recalibrating, recentering is a great, it's a ninja move.
And it feels really sick in the gut. I feel sick in the gut. So I just, when I get that feeling, I just move back for a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and then I get back to the situation.
Yeah, a lot of people feel it in the pit of their stomach. I feel it in my chest more than the pit of my. Sometimes when it's really extreme, I feel it in the pit of my stomach, but mostly in my chest. So one thing I've observed is perfectionism is all about fear of failure. Because when you're trying to be perfect, right, there's this fear that, oh, what if it's not perfect? So it's driven by this fear of failure. While I feel that striving for excellence is the urge for success. Like there's that drive to be successful. And so I feel like excellence is a superior performance because it's all about persistence and commitment to do something exceptionally well, right? While, excellence it requires risk, it requires effort. You have to be spontaneous. There has to be hard work, obviously. But, you're extending yourself to reach your full potential. While the energy of perfectionism, I feel like, while we feel that it's perfect, it's the pinnacle, it actually limits us. That's how I've experienced it. So I want to ask you, what's your perfectionism compulsion? Like, we'll do an exercise. What is something that you have this compulsion over being perfect? So I'll give you an example. For me, it used to be when someone hands me a cup of coffee, okay,
Yeah.
and let's say they put it on the table, right? If the handle is not on the right side, if it's on the left side, it it dysregulates me, or it used to dysregulate me. There's something that comes out. Okay, like, why isn't that perfect? Okay, or let's say if my desk is not meticulously laid out, right? There's some energy leaking,
Yeah.
right? That it's not perfect. So what's your compulsion around perfectionism? You said
So
something
funny enough,
around your proposal. You said if the lines are not. Other than that,
yes. Other than that, funny enough, you spoke about the coffee because that is something I used to have. So when I used to go to coffee shops, I used to order my coffee. I used to tell them, "Can you please make sure the handle's in the center?" So I would just make life more easier because I used to hate it when it's on the left. So same thing like this. So I used to tell them, "Can you just make sure that the handle of the cup handle is in the center?" And they just look at me, and I'm like, and they just look at me, and they'll be like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "Yeah, can you just tell the barista when he's handing over you the cup of coffee or when you're bringing it to me, can you just make sure the coffee cup is in the center, the handle?" So
okay.
they'll be like, "Okay." And they pretty much used to think I'm weird, but I said, I really don't care. So that is one thing. And it was not, it didn't bring on emotion. It was just, yeah, I think it was just like, I don't know the emotion, but it was just like, I used to find it weird that why is it on the left? Or I don't know. So I just used to like, I just didn't like it for some reason. It was probably if it's a borderline OCD or what, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's one thing. Again, the desk, I resonate with the desk because so when suppose the cleaner comes into the office to clean the desk, and when she cleans it, so I've actually told her, "Do you see this desk how it is?" She'd be like, "Yeah." I'm like, when you finish cleaning, can you make sure everything is back like this?
Okay.
Again, she forgets. So now I've come to a conclusion. Okay, take out everything before you clean it. Keep it on the chair. Don't put it back. I'll come and do it myself.
Ah, nice.
I'll
That's a
come and do
big
it
one.
myself. I
Okay.
said, don't do it because if I come back and then I'm seeing it, I'm just like, so forget it. So every evening also when I leave the office, I make sure my desk is in a particular way, my chair is in a particular way, and I leave.
Okay. Okay. So what's it like when things are perfect? Can you imagine, like, what's it like when things are perfect?
Oh, it's just like, wow. I'm like, super. So there are times I get perfect proposals and I just go through and I'm like, wow. And actually go to the guy who's done it and say, and literally tell the guy, like, Shagish, wow. He's like, so what
Okay.
happened? I'm like,
So you can imagine what perfect is like.
yes, to a certain extent, yes.
Okay. Okay. Now I want, with the freedom of your magnificent imagination, I want you to imagine in any context. Okay. I want you to imagine what perfect is like. Just take a moment. Okay. Close your eyes if you have to. However you do it, it's perfect. But just imagine what perfect looks like and feels like and smells like, if there is a smell, and looks like, right? Just engage all of your senses when you imagine what perfect is like.
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
got it?
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want you to, is that a 10 out of 10 perfect, what you just imagined?
Yes.
I want it, I want a 10 for 10 perfect. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, 10 for 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna anchor it.
Okay.
Okay, and we're gonna anchor it with your middle and thumb finger. So what you're gonna do, Gopal, at this moment, you're gonna
Yeah.
bring that feeling back
Okay.
that vision that you had of 10 of 10 perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you're downloading it into your consciousness,
Yeah.
okay, you're going to take your thumb and your middle finger and you're going to press it.
Okay.
Okay. And basically what you're doing here is you're anchoring what perfect is like
Okay.
into this,
Okay.
into your thumb and middle finger.
Okay.
Okay. Let me know when you have it.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Let go. Let go. Okay. Now do it again so we're sure we have it. Okay. Now what I just want you to do is you're not thinking about perfect anymore. You're just anchoring. You're just doing this. And does that feeling come back? What's coming up?
Yeah. I
Okay.
can go back to that. I can.
Beautiful. Now let go. And I just want you to do this. What's coming up?
Yeah. That feeling's coming up.
Beautiful. Okay. Now I want you to pull that quote on your screen, that proposal. Pull that thing that's triggering you, that part, okay? Or multiple parts within that screen of what needs to be perfect, right? In your case, it's this proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. Just look at it.
It's up.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
look at it. How does it feel?
Yeah.
Should still feel unsettling.
Yeah, it's not as unsettling as anymore after this exercise, to be honest. It's like, you know what it is fair enough. It can go out. It's not going to affect anyone's life that, oh, this is not there, it's fine.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how unsettling?
Now?
Yeah.
So two, one being the least.
Correct.
One being the least, maybe 2. It's like just 2 probably. It's like a 2 that it doesn't. It's something that it's fine.
Okay. Now I want you to put your ring and your thumb finger again together. So your middle and your thumb together.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want you to look at the proposal as you're doing it. How does it feel now?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine, to be honest.
Where is it now from 1 to 10? 1 to 10.
0, or to be very honest, 0.
Okay.
It's fine, yeah.
Okay. So now what I want you to do, basically, if at any point, okay, you get, let's say, so demo's over. Okay. Great job. You did phenomenal. Because it clearly it melted away that emotional response that you're having. Now you know the process, right? In any situation, right? Because now what we did was just one dimension. It was one context of where you're seeking perfectionism, which is in proposals, right? Now tomorrow, or after this call, right, you can do the same process with your desk, okay? Or anything that triggers that emotional response. Okay. And if it's still at 3, let's say after you do it and it's still there, right? All you need to do at that point, okay, is while you're doing this, I want you to basically take your eyes, okay, and move them from right to left. Just do this. Okay. And once you're done with that, and then you take it diagonal from right to left, from top right to bottom left, right? So you're doing this. Can you see me? Yeah, you're doing this. And then you're going from top left to bottom right. Okay. And then look at what that is that's triggering you again. Okay.
Okay.
And that should take it down to 0.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm going to try that.
Basically what happens is when you get a sense, when you're doing the eyes, because there's going to be another part of you. In your case, it didn't happen, but sometimes, on rare occasions, there are people who have that part of them that say, no, this is not supposed to be happening. We can't let proposals out without the zeros after the dot.
Yeah.
Right? Without a dot 00, or with, you know, unsymmetrical spacing.
Correct.
Right? So there's resistance. There's another part in the system that says this can't happen. But there's a part that wants to release it, but then there's something that's overruling it. So when you do the eyes, it basically melts it away evenly.
Okay. Okay.
So,
all right.
Great. Now, a little bit of background, okay? There's basically this polarity, right? Between perfect and not.
Okay.
Right? There's this polarity. You know how we live in polarity, right?
Yeah.
So there's always two sides, right? There's a polarity between perfect and not perfect. And the thing about the polarity between perfect and not perfect is it's digital. It's either or, right? It's 100% or nothing. 99 counts as nothing. That's why when I asked you, like, is it 10 of 10 perfect, right? Like it needed to be 10 of 10 perfect.
Okay.
Because if it wasn't, if it was 9, it's actually 0 because it's digital, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're balancing, what we did is we're balancing the polarity by getting the feeling of perfect, right? So you brought that up, you thought about it. Okay, this is what perfect looks like. We went to your imagination, right? Then we went to the world to find a trigger, the proposal.
Yeah.
Then we did something in NLP called collapsing anchors, which is that there are two feelings. There's the feeling being triggered by the proposal. Then there's this feeling that perfect, the ideal, right?
Yeah.
The trigger and the response, right? The trigger and the response. Then you fire off the old feeling by pressing your thumb and your middle finger. And now you're collapsing. What you did was you collapsed the anchor, right? The emotional, you collapse the emotional response, which is the trigger, which in your case was the proposal.
Yeah.
Right? So we got very precise in the pattern and finding that compulsion, that piece, which is a polarity, right? A very strong emotion.
Yeah.
And we reduce the charge on that. And it then gives you the freedom to move in your space, in your work, in your business more freely. Because now you're not feeling like it needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now to get this to generalize, because we did it in one context.
Yeah.
To get it to generalize, you need to do it in all your other perfectionist compulsions.
Yeah.
Right? Because often with perfectionism, at least in my mind, it's basically like, you know, when you look at a chart, right? It's the way we see it is worthless, 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 or worthless, perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It has to be 100%. But in reality, what happens actually, the peak is at 80%. And then it goes back down.
Correct.
Right? Because the effort to get to 100% is a complete waste of time. So 80% is actually what's optimal.
Got it.
Of course, other things like math and, you know, our VAT, our taxes, you know, or if you're doing debt financing for $100 million deal, right? 80% is not the situation. You have to go for 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course. Yeah.
But the idea, or for example, with salt, right? When I put a tiny amount of salt, it's not enough. But there's an optimum level, right?
Yeah.
Then it goes down again. So find all the optimum contexts, like meals, right? There's that optimum amount. After you eat a certain amount, you just feel sick, right?
Yeah. True.
So find the optimum level that's within your reach, where it's in the middle somewhere.
Got it.
And collect all those examples and do this exercise.
Got it. Now I can already see a couple of areas where I can do this exercise even at home on a personal front. So yeah.
Beautiful. One last thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So Anika.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How would you feel if someone tells her, right? Say she wrote down the number 3,
Yeah.
right? And she wrote it imperfectly,
Yeah.
or she spelled beautiful with 2 L's,
Okay.
right? How would you feel if someone told her that that's not perfect or that's not right?
Uh,
Or that's
if
wrong?
how if someone else told her, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I would. So yeah, if you tell her it's not the right spelling, I mean, I would probably, it would boil down to the way they tell her. But yeah, if they're telling her to correct her or they actually correct her, I would be happy about it. But if they outright tell her, no, this is wrong without giving her explanation on why it's wrong, or if it's not the correct spelling, then that, I feel that I would not be happy about that.
Okay. Now, when things are not perfect
Yeah.
in the proposal,
Yeah.
right? That dialogue that you're having inside your head,
Yeah.
okay? Would you tell her that in the context of how you tell yourself this is not perfect or whatever dialogue you're having?
Yeah.
And we know that the dialogue is rather
Yeah.
harsh or
Yeah.
quite harsh to
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you use the same language with her?
No.
You wouldn't.
No, I would not.
Okay. Now, what if you found out that, okay, she's writing 3 or the word beautiful with 2 L's. What if
Yeah.
you found out, Gopal, that that conversation that you have in
Yeah.
your mind,
Yeah.
right? The way you have it with yourself
Yeah.
it's leaking from your body
Okay.
and she's feeling that energy.
Yeah. So I think
How,
I wouldn't feel good. So I think I would. Um, so yes, I would correct my energy so it doesn't leak out to her or yeah.
yeah. So that's why this whole perfectionism thing is a big thing because that dialogue that we have with
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
that energy tends to leak,
True. True.
right? Because we're made up of trillions of cells,
Yeah.
right? And every cell has a receptor, which
Yeah.
means every cell is conscious.
Yeah.
So even if you don't intend to, because you're a loving father, right?
Yeah.
And you're very conscious and aware, but the energy tends to leak, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what would be more valuable, right? Having Anika feel dignified and valued and appreciated, or have her do things perfectly.
100% valued and dignified, then have it do perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when people feel valued, dignified, and appreciated, and I hope you don't mind using her as an example, because this
No, that's perfectly fine.
when we look at it from the lens of our children, right?
Yeah.
Our awareness, our consciousness goes up to another level.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
they would always be better, right?
Yeah.
When they feel dignified, valued, appreciated, right? As opposed to doing better because the funding is coming from fear or shame.
Yeah.
Because when we approach people and say it's not perfect, instantly there's
Yeah.
the funding for perfectionism is coming from fear
Yeah.
or shame, right?
Yeah. I
So,
agree.
so can you identify who that energy is coming from? That energy of it needs to be perfect. And the reason I ask where it's coming from is because you learned it. You came to the world with nothing, right? You didn't
Correct.
have beliefs
Yeah.
about anything. So clearly you learned it from someone.
I think it boils down more to probably college and things like that, because that's how it was shown, like when you see an account statement, the commas have to be right, the zeros have to be, whether it was business studies, when you're sending out proposals, they should be symmetric, they shouldn't. And I think it just boils down to that. It's yeah.
So is
Because
it a
there's so many times, yeah.
teacher? Like, let's get specific. Can you think of a teacher, just for this exercise, can you think of someone who may have instilled
Honestly,
that in you?
no, I can't think of a teacher, to be very honest. But I don't even remember so many of my teachers' names. But yeah, I think it would probably just, I would boil it down to college. I would boil it down because we learned so many things that in our college education, which I realize now was it's not the way things are it's not the way the world works. It's not the way things are done.
Yeah.
So I guess I would boil it down to to college education, that this is the way things should be and stuff. Yeah.
So let's just think of college as this monolithic entity behind you,
Okay.
right? That instilled this idea of perfectionism,
Okay.
right? So that's where the energy is coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want you to send it back, right? And when you're sending it back, next time you're in this situation, send it back and say, look, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect,
Yeah.
right? Excellence is a much better outcome, right? Not just for me, but for my entire lineage,
Yeah.
right? Because that energy then perpetuates forward and backward,
Yeah.
right? So you're not getting rid of the behavior of perfectionism, but you're getting rid of the compulsion to be perfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the capability of perfectionism can stay with you. You can keep the behavior, but you can use it on a dial.
Yeah.
Right? Using it when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And you know it's appropriate by how the person feels. And usually it's Anika.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time you're stressed, exhausted, overwhelmed, if you can tune into to her, right? Tune into how you would be making her feel, where you're either making her feel safe, relaxed, and loved, or not. Those are the two settings. So I know you as a man and a father, you'll always opt for the second setting, right?
Yeah.
Because of your awareness and your consciousness. Right? So try noticing that it's actually her saying, not you, but it's her saying, I'm tired, or, it's frustrating. Why does it have to be, right? There's someone who's slave driving in a way that's not consistent to who you are.